can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our mind.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Pucked Up Parents. I am Michael. I'm a pucked up parent, and with me, as always, is my lovely partner in crime, partner at the rink, and partner in life, my wife Angela. Angela, how you doing?
I am good. Good to be back today. Just to kind of give everybody a reminder, we started this podcast now 7 episodes ago to share our knowledge that we've gained over the last 12 years of being pucked up parents. We have 2 sons who play ice hockey and came into this knowing basically nothing about ice hockey. So we wanted to share our trial by fire education and experience of the youth hockey world.
That's true. So, our backgrounds Angela is a former collegiate athlete, a gymnast. I myself, I'm terrible at sports. I'm athletic in the fact that I did do firefighting, and we are located in Northern Kentucky, so not a real big hockey state. So anybody listening in Canada, I'm sure you're smiling at the fact that there is actually hockey in Kentucky, but it's actually pretty competitive. So anyway, we're at episode 7 right now. Angela, fun fact, 7 looks like an upside down hockey stick. Lame dad joke.
Does. Yes, that is a very lame dad joke.
So let's see. We're coming out of the weekend. It's still kind of the post-holiday. I'll call it the post-holiday hangover of hockey. Not a lot of games, but we did have some varsity games. Any observations from our weekend?
It was a pretty quiet weekend, other than a couple of games and some open ice time, some stick and puck, whatever you want to call it, open hockey. Not really much going on, although we had at home, we are prepping for senior night. So we're going back through all of the old photos and videos and whatnot from our kids' 12-year career.
Yeah, he's a senior. He's in varsity. It's not his last game. It's just a salute to seniors night. So tearing a hole in our little souls as we go through the memories of him from starting pushing buckets on learning to skate all the way up to a 6'4", 190-pound beast of Don that he currently is. So, yeah, we're coming to grips with him being a senior, and senior night is probably not going to help us at all. What about last week? Where did we go last week? I know we talked a bit about travel, and man, we just scratched the surface of that one.
Right. So we did scratch the surface of travel, just talking about the bare bones basics. We have so much more to talk about with travel. And I think we can do many, many, many more episodes on that. So if anybody has any funny stories, questions, whatnot, reach out to us because we are definitely planning some more episodes regarding hockey travel.
Yeah, that's true, and I would actually point out, give us your hacks, where are you saving money, where you're skimming on purchases, how you're saving money in hotels. Please share whatever you can with us. And, man, today's topic, holy cow, turn your radio up, have a seat, have a cup of coffee or a nice cold beverage as we dive into the wonderful world of tape. Angela, you are excited about this episode. We are gonna talk about hockey tape.
Listen, I promised this in an earlier episode that we could do an entire episode on tape. So I took that as a challenge to myself to come up with enough topics to talk about tape. And let me tell you, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, there's some controversy around hockey tape and
Oh,
the
yeah.
different types of tape and how you use it and what color it is and all kinds of things.
E
So
everybody seems to have opinions about tape. I was overly surprised at feedback that I got on some youth hockey forums about everybody has different opinions and they all cannot agree. Who knew that hockey tape would tear the world of youth hockey parents apart? But here we are. So Let's
One of many things that there are major controversies on in youth hockey. So this is probably the easiest one, at least for me, because I don't have a lot of opinions one way or the other, but we can talk about the different types of tape and the different areas where maybe there are some controversies.
would you say this is a sticky subject?
Yeah, it's a sticky subject.
Yeah, come on.
Ha ha.
All right, so
Dad
let's
joke number 2.
I think the 3rd one, we may have to end the show. All right, so let's get into it. Let's, take me down the world of tape. I'll confess, this is actually, as I read through your notes, this is one of the things that I am not an expert on in any ways. I'm not an expert on anything in hockey. I'm not as well versed as you are, or especially the kids. So, what do you have? Let's dive into the world of tape.
Right. So I dove into the world of tape when our oldest son got his first stick, and we sent him to practice with no tape on it. And at the end of practice, I was told, "Hey, you're supposed to tape his stick." And I was like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." So I came home and got on YouTube and started figuring out the wide world of hockey tape.
Yeah, I guess I was kinda there too because when I think of taping a stick, I'm like, what are you fixing? Like, a stick's a stick. You don't tape a new bat, a baseball or a softball bat. I know sometimes you tape a baseball bat, but a stick to me is clean and sleek, and it's got the cool designs on it, and you're gonna ruin it by putting tape on it, but yeah, we were told, "Put some tape on that stick," just like we were told to sharpen skates, so we were novice, and, I'm sure they probably rolled their eyes at us when we said we didn't know we had to tape sticks.
Right. So let's learn a little bit about why you tape the stick.
Alright.
So we'll start out with the cloth tape, which I think is probably the most common and what most people think of. It reminded me of athletic tape. So the kind of tape that I taped my ankles with back in the day,
Yeah,
but
and it
it's
reminds
narrower.
and I am a first responder, so I do work with a lot of squads, EMT, and medical runs. It reminds me of it's medical tape. It's that cloth tape that's always difficult to rip. But yeah, the cloth tape
Right.
that they do have.
But it's a little bit narrower. So hockey tape is probably kind of a 1 inch thickness, whereas the athletic tape or medical tape is typically an inch and a half, 2 inches thick. So I that's probably the biggest difference to me. I will say classically, the tape typically is white or black, and this is probably the first controversy we're going to talk about because the cloth hockey tape comes in all sorts of colors and patterns and in all sorts of different things, and people have some really strong opinions
Oh, yeah.
about whether white tape or black tape or some one of the colored or pattern tapes are most appropriate for your stick.
Yeah, a lot of feedback of people were anti, "Just keep it basic, don't make a candy cane stripe on your stick," and then others were like, "Well, let the kids have fun, let them decorate it how they wanna do it," and I did see some videos of stores showing off hockey tape, and it was like it looked like a paint store. I mean, there were so many colors, it just looked like every color of the rainbow was there available to do it. So, yeah, black, white are your typical what are the, advantages and disadvantages of black versus white? And let's not even talk about the colored one, but the black versus the white. What's the advantages, or is it just a style only?
Well, I've read that the advantage of a black tape is it's a little bit more stealthy. So the opposing player, the opposing goalie is going to have a little bit harder time finding the puck on your stick if your blade is taped with black tape. I don't know how true that is, but it seems to make sense. The black puck is going to blend in with the black tape. Maybe it's a little bit more stealthy. Maybe it's a little bit harder for the goalie to see the puck coming off the blade. I don't know, but I
A little
find it
sleight of hand
as
a little sleight of hand camouflage with a black puck and a black stick. So if the
right.
kid is fooled like the coyote in the Roadrunner cartoons by a puck hidden on a stick, maybe seek out a new sport. But okay, sure.
It's
It's
a
a fast-paced
plausible
game. I get
theory.
it.
And it's a plausible theory. I mean, I don't know if anybody studied it. I don't know if there's any, scientific test on it, but it's a plausible theory and seems to make a little bit of sense to me.
Maybe, if they bring back Mythbusters, this is something they could do, so to
E
figure out if black tape camouflages the puck in any capacity during a fast-paced hockey game.
You know what? Maybe we should look to see if Mythbusters ever did an episode on that.
Oh, that's a good point.
That would be interesting. Opposite of the black tape, obviously, is white tape. And so the theory there is that you have a little bit better visibility of the puck on your blade as a player to track and make it a little bit easier for your stick handling.
Yeah, so as I read that and compared it to the black, it was like having a black tape on your stick is advantageous to you to camouflage it against your whoever's defending you. Having white opens it up to let your own teammates see the stick. So to me, it's almost 50-50 in my opinion.
Right, right, and then that's true because if it's a white taped blade, then your teammate's gonna see that pass coming a little bit easier. The puck won't be quote unquote hidden on the black tape.
So maybe it helps a little bit, maybe it doesn't help a little bit, but I think you and I both agree on this. And as some of my friends once said, if we both agree, it's got to be fact. I think it's 50-50, black or white. Do your preference.
Right. I think it's a personal preference. Whatever the kiddos or even the adult hockey players, whatever they choose, go for it. But I just find these theories, for lack of a better word, interesting, that it also creates that controversy and those really strong opinions.
Well, and also you gotta think that a lot of athletes, even at a young age, are superstitious. So they dive into these superstitions. If I put black on there, they won't see the puck. If I put white
Right.
on there, the guy I'm passing it to is gonna see it quicker. So yeah, it's probably gonna go to the preference of the player, and you're just gonna guide your kids when they're super young and help them out. And that probably brings us to the next category, the color ones, the rainbow stripy ones, the, greens and the reds and the blues, and I know there was we're not gonna get it political here, but there was controversy years ago about the color ones. What tell us all about that.
There's every color of the rainbow you can imagine. There are flag patterns, flames, camo patterns, all kinds of stuff. I think for the most part, I've seen younger kids using these on the blade of their stick, but older kids and maybe some adults too are using those more colorful or pattern tapes more on the grip of their stick rather than on the blade. But I will touch quickly on there was a controversy in the NHL about Pride tape. There's a company out there that does rainbow tape and promoted it as Pride tape. And the NHL initially said that players weren't allowed to use that. And I've read that that was overturned in 2023. So just interesting that the tape controversy goes all the way up to the NHL.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, and I know for our own kid, I think Sam, our oldest, it was Christmas holidays, I think he taped not the blade, but I think he taped the stick like a candy cane. I think he went red and white for, some scrimmages just to have some fun, and that's another thing, and again, I reached out to our community out there on the youth hockey world to see what the preferences was, and a lot of the traditionalists were the black or the white, but then another parent said, "Let the kids do what they want. Let them express themselves with with their tape, with their colored tape." And as they get older, they'll start to progress towards that more professional black or white, but at a young age, let them have fun with it.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
let them stick out, and honestly, as a parent, it helps me pick them out a little bit easier on the ice if I see, like, a bright pink blade out there.
I think, our youngest was using that bright green tape as a blade on his blade for
Oh, yeah, that helped out tremendously. I remember that. He had the bright green all over
it
his
was neon green,
yeah,
yeah,
it was
neon
neon green.
green.
He
Right,
looked like he was holding a big old highlighter out there. So the tape, you're using it on the blade and you're using it on the stick. We're still talking about the cloth tape. There's other
right.
tapes that's we haven't discussed yet. Wow, I can't believe we're 10 minutes into this and we're still talking about one style of tape, but here we are. So you're taping the end of the stick. Now, as far as grip tape goes, that's where you're using that up on the shaft, right? Where the hand grips are.
Right. So I think some people use, and this is where we can get into some more controversy, but cloth tape can be used on the grip. It can also be you can also use grip tape and some other things that we'll talk about in a little bit. But I just want to jump back into the cloth tape a little bit because it becomes a DIY master's tool, almost like duct tape in the hardware world. That cloth tape can be used not only for the blade and for the grip. We have used cloth tape to put a number on the back of a jersey if somebody forgot their jersey and they would have to wear a practice jersey in the game. We've taped numbers on. We've used tape as helmet markings and name tags and all kinds of different things.
So you're basically it's the MacGyver tool. You're using it for everything. Or the duct to your point, the duct tape. With the old saying, if you can't duck it, I'm not gonna say the F word on the radio. If you can't duct tape it, it's a problem. But yes,
Right. So that's
it
that's
is
kind of
it's a
cloth tape.
multi-purpose tool.
Right, that's the cloth tape in the hockey world. I think that and, the clear tape, which we'll get into in a minute, is another one of those multi-use kind of things. But I do wanna touch on grip tape a little bit. So, the grip tape is similar to the cloth tape, but it's a little stretchier and a little bit thicker, tackier, more texture to it,
And
that's
the grip
often
tape,
used.
just to be clear, the grip tape is going on the handle where the kids hold the stick, right? It's
Yeah,
not you're not
on the
using it on the
top part
blade.
of the shaft.
But in the beginning, when we started out, we used the cloth tape up there, right? Or they can still continually use
But
it.
yeah, I think our kids kind of use a mixture of that, which is why I wanted to throw the grip tape in there as a one of the many types of tape to be used in the many different ways. Create the grip on your stick.
Right, okay. So, the texture is stretchy. It's more is it more ticky-tacky, like a little stickier?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a sticky texture to it.
Okay. And, yeah, you do on the I know you wrap it around the shaft, and, my gosh, there's so much double entendres right here as we talk about this. It's on the shaft, it's on the knob. I'm talking about the hockey stick, you bunch of perverts.
Wait. Can I say, just for our friends out there who may have watched the show Heated Rivalry, we're not gonna get into that, but many of these, double entendres, will speak to that show if
Oh,
you
is
haven't
that the
watched
Netflix
it.
show I've been seeing about?
It I believe it's on, HBO Max here in the States, but it's a Canadian show about, some hockey players that gets a little spicy.
Okay, it's not Shoresy, I'm a Shoresy fan, you know that.
Yeah, well, this one's a little spicier, so,
Okay, so
yeah, as we're talking
double
about.
entendres aside, we're talking about the shaft and the knob of the stick, and I know the knob is it I can't say it's I know the knob is something that is either there or not there, and that is also seems like it's a preference.
Yeah, I think that's personal preference, and the knob is, like, the very top of the stick. Some kids put a little extra tape on there so they can get a little bit better feel for the end of the stick, I think.
Yeah, and, again, much like the tape style, this was also controversial on the forum that I had. Somebody said, "Don't put a knob on there, it's stupid, let the kids feel the stick, it's better for them to be able to, grip the entire stick." Another parent was like, "I'm a goalie parent, so I put the knob up there so my kid can pick up the stick if it falls on the ice during a shoot." So it makes sense both ways. Again, I think it's a 50-50, and it is also a preference, and your kid will grow into what their preference is. They're gonna probably try out everything. They're gonna see somebody
Yeah.
else that has a knob, they're gonna try it, and then they're gonna take it off. I think our kids at one time had a knob on their sticks, and
Yeah, I think so. And for our friends out there who have no idea what we're talking about, maybe think of a baseball bat, the end of a baseball bat where the grip is. You've got that little knob on the end of a baseball bat where you hold on, and the grip on a baseball bat. It's a very similar thing.
that's true, and you can also Google it, but when you Google it, make sure you put hockey shaft and knob. Don't just put shaft and knob, that's gonna take you down a rabbit hole.
Well,
Probably put
that
about
may yeah, that may also bring up heated rivalry.
Okay. I don't know this show, I assume you're watching it, so okay.
I already watched it. I did. It's interesting. You guys should watch it if you haven't already.
Alright, so there's a
Um,
endless plug for TV this week. It is a hockey show, and I'm familiar with the subject,
yeah.
and it's apparently a really good show.
It's a huge hit. It's all over my, social media feeds right now, so, shout out to that. Anyways, let's move on to clear tape, or as I've also heard it called sock tape. So it's that clear plastic stretchy tape, that you also see in hockey stores,
Yep.
which this was a whole new category of tape for me when the kids started playing hockey.
So when we first started playing with when Sam first started playing, we stuck the socks on. We just bought, like, the knit socks that didn't have the little Velcro straps. I don't even know if he was wearing one of those cup short things back then anyway, and his socks kept drooping down to his knees, and finally, we were just in the locker room and saw the parents taping socks, so we started taping the socks too. Uh,
Right.
Eventually, they kinda phased out, and then it came back with Sam, so I don't know
I
what's your
think that
opinion
was
on the clear
because he
tape?
was lazy.
Oh, he was late.
I think that
He
was because he got lazy for a while. But the clear tape is primarily used on the shin pads and the socks, to keep the shin pads in place and to keep the socks from sliding down and whatnot. We'll get into this in a little bit. There's some alternatives to the clear plastic tape, but some people don't use it at all. I know Sam went through a phase where he wasn't using the sock tape, and I think that was just out of more laziness than anything. I don't know. Again, personal preference.
Yeah, and that was also on our forum too, and people were like, you see some of these kids with tape above their knees, which you shouldn't do because you're trying to bend, and it's meant to hold up the meant to hold the shin pads in place. It's not meant to keep the socks up, which is what we were trying to use it for initially. It's just to keep the shins in place. Um, and keep it, keep it thin, maybe a couple wraps around. Don't like, mummify them in tape. You're gonna have a hard time getting it taken off in the first place. But Henry doesn't even wear them anymore, does he? He doesn't.
Yeah, Henry, I think
Guess I don't pay attention
uses
because I'm
sock
not
tape.
dressing them anymore.
Right, you're not in the locker room anymore, so you don't pay as much attention. But I will say that the clear tape is also another one of those jack of all trades things because I know we have used the clear tape to hold on elbow pads with worn out elastic, tape up a jersey that's too small, that the sleeves are way too long. We've used the clear tape to tape the sleeves up and things along those lines too. So that's another one of those multi-use tools to have lots of that in your hockey bag.
I think I alluded to this. I haven't been in the locker room for a while, but when our kids were younger, we were in the locker room. Angela, what was the popular thing amongst these bored kids in the locker room when they had tape?
Oh, when they were taking their tape off after practice, after games, they would start making tape balls. And at one point, we had a tape ball in one of the kids' bags that was about the size of a basketball. It was ridiculous.
So they'll do this at a young age, and I've seen it all around the rinks and these other teams, and these kids are walking out of the locker room packing these basketball, beach ball size. Everybody donates their tape at the end of the game, and they make a tape ball. If you remember Pee Wee's Playhouse back in the '80s, again, I'm back to
Oh
the '80s.
gosh.
Pee Wee had an aluminum foil ball, and I think he had a rubber band ball. This is a sock tape ball, and well, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
It
Also,
was mostly clear tape though.
it is mostly clear tape. Also, like, Henry will take his tape off, wad it up in a little ball, and they always get in a fight in the locker rooms, chunking these little, tape balls at each other.
Or in the middle of a basketball game with the trash can.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's
Everybody
pretty true.
taking shots like a basketball game. Yeah.
Well, and we're parents, so have you ever done this? Because I know I've done it multiple times. Have you ever walked out of the locker room chatting with parents in the lobby and everything else, and you look down and you got that big strip of tape stuck to your foot like it's toilet paper? And you're like,
Yeah.
I drug most of the locker room and there's tape stuck to my shoe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good one, and that's usually the clear tape. That's the one that always ends up on the floor of the locker
Yeah,
room.
the clear tapes, it seems like to me it's the stickiest to me, and it's the most annoying, and I always hated it because I never kept scissors in the bag initially, and tearing that stuff is difficult. Like, I would pull it, and it would just keep getting thinner and thinner, but never tear all the way through, and would drive me crazy to the point where I'm like, "Fine, I'm just gonna use my teeth," which is probably awful.
Yeah, that's kinda gross. Well, let's move on and start talking about another controversial topic is how you tape the stick, how you tape the blade, how you tape the grip.
I don't know where this started. I don't remember doing this. I don't think I ever did this for any of our kids. I think you started out doing it. Clearly, you're the more athletic and the more patient and the more arts and crafts skilled than I am. I don't know what I bring to this marriage, by the way, but I think you did that. Yeah, start me out. Where did we start taping the stick initially? And when did that transition from you doing it to the kids doing it themselves?
Well, like I said, we sent our oldest to practice with a brand new stick that had no tape on it, hadn't been cut, nothing. And after that practice, the coach was like, "Hey, yeah, you guys need to cut this stick down and you need to tape it." So I came home and pulled up YouTube because if you got to learn something, you find a video on YouTube, right? So I watched several different videos on how to tape a stick and how to cut a stick, which guess what? The chop saw in the garage does a great job. Or if you have a little handsaw, little hacksaw, that works too. But I watched several videos on how to tape the stick, not only the blade of the stick, but the grip. And at that time, I only had access to the cloth tape. So that's what I used. But yeah, just watch several YouTube videos on how to tape a stick.
In preparation for this, and I also remember seeing like it was ESPN or 60 Minutes or something with Ovechkin, and I saw that they were showing how he tapes every one of his sticks by himself prior to each game. And then as I researched this, it was like, this is the Ovechkin style. Here's how Connor Bedard does it. So every major player has their own, and each kid tries to emulate that or design their own style. So it's almost like a fingerprint at this point, where it's the kid's own style as they progress. I know Sam has his own thing. I think Henry's taping his own stick right now. So it just seems like there's a standard way to do it, and then the kids adjust based on that and tweak it to their own preferences.
Right, and it almost becomes a ritual because the blade needs to be retaped frequently. Anytime that tape is visibly damaged or torn or bunched up on the blade, it needs to be retaped. So that happens really frequently, especially when you get to a more competitive level. The kids are retaping their sticks every practice, every game, or every other practice or game. It happens so often.
It's
Get
almost yeah,
really good at it and really fast at it.
and it seems like it's almost a badge of honor when our kids are like, "Yeah, check out my stick, the tape tore because I took that shot," or look at the bottom of it, it's all wound down because I was playing good defense." So it's almost like a badge of honor, and then on the road trips, we talked about road trips last week, part of that road trip includes them, putting on a fresh thing of tape on there.
Right. So, kind of to move on, or actually to talk a little bit more about the blade. So, one of the controversial topics about taping the blade is, do you tape toe to heel or heel to toe? And again, I think that comes down to personal preference.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm lost on this subject. I read that toe to heel to toe. I'm thinking hands, shoulders, knees, and toes, the old song. But I know the kids got YouTube. Ovechkin, I saw him do it, and they talked about he did it from, I think he did it from heel to toe. Um, but yeah, it is a preference. And much like everything, 50-50. You think, how you tape it?
Yeah, I would guess. Question for you. Do you know what heel to toe means and toe to heel?
I mean, the hills where the curve is, and the front end is the toe.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay. All
like
right.
a foot.
Just, yeah. Okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there as a, for some of our friends that maybe didn't know that.
Okay.
So let's continue on. The grip tape and the taping of the grip is a little bit different. We talked a little bit about that already, but it's not needed as frequently. Usually, the grip only needs to be redone when it's damaged in some way, or especially when you get the new stick. I know our oldest just got a new stick and was happily putting his grip style on that new stick over the weekend.
If you're keeping records, he broke his stick right before Christmas, and we had to get a new one. And my gosh, you talk about somebody watching the mail truck daily to see where his stick was at. That's what Sam was doing. My stick's in Columbus, Ohio right now. Why is it not here yet? I'll drive up and get it. Relax, man. It'll get here.
Right. So let's move on a little bit. After you tape the blade of the stick, the next thing most people do is use stick wax, which stick wax is kind of a putty like substance almost that you put on the tape of the blade after you've taped it. Apparently, it enhances puck control, protects the tape itself, and it also repels snow and ice buildup on the blade.
And who is our basic global leader in wax? This is I'm familiar with.
The one that I know the best and the ones that I know our kids usually have in their bag is Howie's. I feel like that's the one everybody knows.
Yeah, it's really and Howie's let's talk about Howie's wax a little bit. It has a unique smell to it. It d I don't know how to describe the smell of it, but it is a unique smell, so much so that we have a Howie's candle in our house that kids burn every once in a while, and the kids love using that stuff. So, Howie's seems to have a large share of the wax market.
They do for sure, and the smell is kind of a sweet smell, and I don't know if it's one of those nostalgic things at this point for the kids, the smell of it. But I know there's some other wax companies out there that are coming out with some new products and some new smells.
Yes, and I'll actually give a plug to Cash Wax. Cash Wax is based out of Alberta, Canada. Cashwax.ca on your computer. They reached out to us to kind of show us their waxes, and holy cow, we've talked repeatedly about how bad hockey gear stinks, and they actually sell like flavored hockey wax. So they have like apple and spearmint and bubblegum and orange. I think there was like a new car smell one, which is really wild. So shout out to our guys at Cash Wax, Hockey Wax. It's a little guy that started this business with his dad. It's really cool. I got on their website, and they actually donate a portion of their proceeds to youth hockey organizations. So Angela and I love to support small businesses. We love to support charities. So shout out to Cash Wax .ca for your wax needs. Let's get some apple wax on the kids sticks.
Yeah, maybe cut down on that hockey smell a little
Oh,
bit. Get something else that smells great.
a nice cocktail, stinky hockey gear and bubblegum flavored wax.
Nice, nice. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about tape alternatives. There are some products out there that are alternatives to hockey tape for different things, like the grip tape. Rather than using a grip tape, it's more of products that are more akin to, or at least what I would see as something that you would have on a baseball or a softball bat, that kind of a grip. They make those for hockey sticks as well. This is not something we've ever tried, so I don't have a lot of insight into it, but I feel like we need to make a point that there are some other products out there.
So I didn't look into these, so correct me if I'm wrong. So clearly the tape you're building it. You're making your grip. Are these the pre-made grips that you're kinda sliding on to the shaft and just and it sticks on there, you get like a blower dryer or a little bit of tape on itself? Okay, so it's like a
Yeah.
pre-made grip, mu and to your point, much like a bat has the rubber grip on it.
Right, and that's how I picture these is they're more like that rubber grip that you would see on, like, a baseball or a softball bat, and, they, slide kinda over the end of the stick, and I think you heat them up or something to get them to stick, and it provides a very standard feel so that you don't have to try to retape the stick time after time the same way, so you get that kind of customiz or not necessarily the customization, but you get that standardization of the feel of the grip.
Right, so no matter what stick you put it on, it's always gonna be the same grip, whereas if you're building it yourself, you may mess up a loop or mess up a turn, and now it's got a little bit of different feel to it. Yeah, we've not experienced this one. I mean, again, this is a hockey player's preference as to what they try to do, or if it were me playing hockey, I'd probably be lazy and just buy one of these because I don't wanna take the time to do all the tape jobs.
Right. So there are a couple of those products out there that again, we've not used any of these, but they're called Rocket Grip Lizard Skins. There's one called Butt Ends that I think actually makes that knob on the end of the stick. So I find that interesting. If anybody has any feedback on these products, I'd love to hear it. Like we said, we've never personally used, our kids have never personally used these, but I do find it interesting.
And what about the old DIY? You're cheap, you have what's laying around the house, do you use the duct tape? Are you getting dad's duct tape off the, pegboard? Are you breaking into the electrical supplies and using electric tape? I mentioned Sam has used my electric tape. Like, it used to be missing early on when he started playing. I'm like, "Where's my electric tape?" It was in his hockey bag.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen this a ton. It's not something that we see a lot, but it's definitely something that I have seen, but it's not the most common. But if that's what you got, that's what you got. Go ahead and
Well,
grab that duct tape if you
let's say
need
it's not
to.
what you got. I think it's more for parents like us when we started out. If we were reading that Hockey for Dummies book, you and I would probably whip out the duct tape or the electric tape. God forbid our kids show up to the rink with a stick wrapped in duct tape.
I know our kids would probably be embarrassed about that now, but there's probably somebody out there in a beer league that takes pride in their duct tape stick.
That's true.
So there are a couple other alternatives for the sock tape or the clear tape. There's some shin pad straps. They're essentially Velcro straps that go around the outside of the socks, as well as some sort of like compression sleeves that will help keep those shin pads in place. And then I've also heard that some people are, at least it was one of those things that was put out there, to use an old skate lace to keep your socks up or to keep your shin pads in place.
Now, is it true, and back to the hockey stick, wrapping, do they use I know they make, like, little line grips in the shaft of the stick. Have they ever used shoelaces for that or the laces for that?
I
So
would think so.
right, so wrap the shoelace around the shaft and then tape over top of it, and now you have, like, some more, like, fingerty grips.
Yeah, like a little bit more of a grip. So I've seen that a lace used for that. I've also seen where that you just take the tape and you spin it into a tight spiral and
Yes.
use that to create the grip with the tape. So, you know, lots of different DIY methods out there. I'm sure there's plenty of YouTube videos that can teach you all these little tips and tricks.
Alright, all those sound great. Now, I do have a question 'cause, a few episodes back, go back and listen if you can, we interviewed a goalie parent. Where do goalies fit in all this?
Well, so there's a whole nother version of stick tape for goalies. It's similar but different, just like, you know, goalies are similar but different. They typically have that knob or butt end a little bit larger than a player stick. There's also kind of that twisty or grip texture pattern to make it a little easier for the goalie to grab a hold of that stick.
Right. I'd mentioned that earlier. A listener, not a listener, but someone on our forum had reached out and said that they did put the knob on there for their goalie. That way they could pick it up a lot easier. And I guess I've never paid attention. Are goalies taping the blade?
Yes. So the goalies do tape the blade. Obviously, the goalie blade is much larger than a player blade. So I do know that it takes a lot of tape to do that goalie stick blade. However, I don't think they have to retape as often as a player does. So once they get a new stick and get, all the tape, the grip and the texture patterns and all of that done the way that they like it, I don't think the goalies are retaping as often as the players are.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never paid attention to was the goalie stick. Does it have tape on it or what is it? I never even thought a goalie, they're not taping their shin pads on. They got those huge, pads that they're wearing for to block the pucks. So yeah,
Right.
whole different world. Goalies are,
Well, if you Yeah, well, goalies are always different, but if you remember, the goalie is wearing a blocker on their stick hand.
right.
So they have that big, block, for lack of a better word, while they're trying to hold the stick. So I think the texture and the feel for a goalie is probably more important, because they just have that much more equipment and whatnot to try to find where they want to hold that stick. And then I'll, go back to Shauna, who we interviewed a few episodes ago, who's the goalie mom. I remember when her son got a new stick, she goes, I need a lot of tape because we have to tape the blade because it takes so much tape because that blade is so much larger.
Some miles and miles of tapes. All right,
Right.
so let's move on to the next subject. Moves pretty fast, and nothing is more emblematic of that than tape or than using tape actually. Because if you think about it, you start out as a parent in the locker room, hunched over, or to your point, sitting at home with a YouTube video, learning how to do all this hockey taping. So take us on our reflections. What are we thinking about this life moving pretty fast and how we are when we started out versus how we are today?
Well, I think the big shift and the thing that I reflect on is that, I started taping the kids' sticks, and then all of a sudden I was no longer taping sticks.
At what
The
age?
kids
What
the
age
kids
did you
took
think that
over.
happened? Like, what age did you go from tape? I should know this. I'm the dad of this family. When did you stop taping the sticks and turn it over to the kids?
I think Sam was probably maybe 9 or 10. And then Henry, of course, because he had a big brother, he, of course, wants to do everything his big brother does. And so he was probably 6 or 7 and was really determined to tape his own stick at one point. So I think it was before a practice. I just said, okay, yep, you can do it, and let him go and let him have at it. And he taped the stick, and it was a hot mess. There was tape bunched up all over the place. It was just a mess. But he was so proud of himself that I went ahead and let him go to practice. I told the coach, hey, he taped his own stick. He's really proud of himself. So, I think that happened. And then, at that point, I was still probably taping his stick for games and whatnot, but he was getting that practice in, which I think is important. That's how the kids grow and gain confidence by doing it themselves. But there was definitely that overlap where we were kind of working on it together. And I would say by the time he was 8 or 9, he was doing it completely by himself.
Yeah, that's true. And we take a lot of again. We talked about road trips. I watched him recently taping his stick over in the passenger seat, and he's got it down to an art. And he did something that I didn't see until I watched the Ovechkin video. He took a puck and rubbed the puck on the tape. I guess that smooths the tape out or keeps it flat. Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, it just kind of pushes it down and makes sure all the sticky part of the tape is pushed down and flat on the stick. So
So
yeah, that's something that, we didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, both of our kids will do that. They get that the tape on the blade, and then they'll run a puck over it just to kind of flatten that out before they put the wax on.
so much like tying skates, you start out doing everything for your kid, putting all your gear on, putting all the tape on, getting them all dressed up. And then by the time you get to maybe 10, 11, even probably earlier than that, you're out of the picture. You're not doing it anymore. Basically, what you and I are at this point is we're the money we have to buy.
Um,
And you buy tape by the case. We buy it by the
Right.
case. I'm not sure the
So
kids have ever been through a full thing of tape because I find like half spent ones crushed under our car in the garage. But yes, we keep a case of tape in the house.
well, you can't use, if there's only a tiny little bit of tape left on the end of the roll, you can't use it because you have to have one full strip to tape the blade. So that's why you're finding all those kind of extras later on the garage.
Yeah, and the ones I'm running over with my car and ruining them.
Yeah.
And then also, you keep a pair of sharp scissors, sharp. Keep them sharp because if you're fighting that, especially the clear tape is super hard to cut. Keep a nice sharp pair of scissors in the kids' bags, almost like the medical scissors. Wouldn't you agree? The medical scissors, like we use, I mean, we use
Yeah.
on the squad at the firehouse. I use them in the medical field, but those blunt nosed scissors, just keep a pair of those in the bag.
Right. And yeah, I think that would be the tip of the week is to have, always keep a big supply of tape, all the different kinds of tape we've talked about in your bag, in the vehicle, in the garage, wherever. And then having scissors, or even recently, our oldest said one of his teammates always has a pocket knife, and the pocket knife's really helpful for removing the tape off the blade.
Yeah. We are from Kentucky, so we do pack pocket knives, or I don't, but people do pack pocket knives around here and whip them out. Like, yeah, I gutted a deer last week with this, but let me cut your hockey tape for you.
Hey, whatever works. A bunch of teenage boys in a locker room with scissors and a knife. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Blood brothers. All
Right,
right.
right.
I can't believe we spent this much about tape. I don't want to talk about tape anymore tonight. If I see a thing of Scotch tape, I'm going to scream. But wow, the how informative this was. I actually really enjoyed this episode. So well done on the tape research, Angela.
Hey, I told you we could do a whole episode on tape. I don't think you believed me, but I took it as a challenge.
All right, all right. Well, maybe we'll do a whole episode on shoelaces once.
Not shoelaces, hockey laces.
See, there we go. I'm learning something. Hockey laces. All right. So what do you have for? Let's wrap this thing up. Let's call it a day. This tape episode is now taped. So let's flow into the outro.
Okay, that was bad dad joke number
Number
three,
three. That's
at
why we got to. That's why we
least
got to end
of
the
the
show. I said three
episode.
bad dad jokes. We end the show. This is our closure. So go
All
ahead.
right. Well, if you guys aren't irritated with that, please follow, subscribe, and share. Leave us comments and questions on whatever platform you're listening on, Facebook or Instagram. You're not going to be the only one confused and lost at the hockey rink. We're here with you.
Yes, and we do have merchandise out there. It's tagged at the top of our Facebook page. Get you a hoodie, get you a coffee mug. Again, we like the small businesses. I'll plug cashwax.ca again. They have some great smelling hockey wax out there. And as Angela and I say every week, keep your stick on the ice. We're all in this together, or we're stuck in this together. Thank you. Tape joke number 4.
Up before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around.